Welcome aboard Tristan and Tommy's Runaway Railway. For your safety, please remain seated and enjoy the show. Welcome to Please Remain Seated, a theme park podcast hosted by two theme park enthusiasts that work for the industry in Central Florida, here to discuss theme park news, reviews, and more. In today's news, we're going to talk about Super Nintendo World opening at Universal Hollywood and as well as Universal Orlando. We're going to be talking about rumors about Kumba over at Busch Gardens Tampa, the future of Top Thrill Dragster over at Cedar Point in Ohio, an update to Disney's Polynesian Resort, and some possible beef between Bob Chapek and Bob Iger. Today's review is Iron Gwazi. I finally wrote it. After years of talking about it, I feel like in every podcast I probably mention it. Iron Gwazi. I got to do the pass holder previews for it, and it is now open as of recording it. I did get to go on it before everyone else, but anyway. And then we also have some Theme Park TRISTory, going to talk about Knott's Berry Farm, and as well as a Creature of the Park segment. Tristan, it's been a hot minute since we've done Please Remain Seated.
Yeah, it has. It's been even longer than we did our other podcast, which we just got done recording. And we didn't do that one for a month and a half. But when we recorded that one, we didn't do one of these. So it's probably been close to 2 months since we've done
probably
Remain Cedars. So
it's like I was hoping that I was gonna have an episode where I can do Icebreaker review before Iron Gwazi, but I gotta do the Iron Gwazi one.
It's the big boy.
Like Icebreaker, it was a very fun little airtime machine and all, but Iron Gwazi, we gotta get to that one. I mean, all of the SeaWorld Busch Gardens coasters that were put off from 2020, I think have opened already. Like, I think Pantheon over at Busch Gardens Williamsburg also opened, and then Emperor just opened at SeaWorld San Diego. But I haven't really, I'm not as associated with those. We're here in Florida, so we do talk about other theme park stuff, but yeah.
Well, to just a little bit of catching up to do in our time off, I went on my first ever cruise. It was a Disney cruise. Not exactly theme park related, but a lot of our Disney folks might enjoy going on a Disney cruise sometime. So it was wonderful. I highly recommend it.
Cruises are just another kind of vacation, and I mean, there is that new Carnival cruise that has a roller coaster on it. So I mean, amusement.
Supposedly, the new cruise ship, the Disney Wish, has a variation of the Aqueduct on it. The Aqueduct exists on, I think, 2 other cruise ships. It's on the Disney Dream, which is what I was on. But this has a variation on that where it's actually considered like an attraction. I think it's sort of I think it's like a water coaster.
What is the Aqueduct? Is it
the
like
Aqueduct
a
is just a water slide that goes out over the edge of the ship.
Oh.
So like you look down over the ocean and then it goes around
terrifying.
the perimeter. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of that reminds me, when I was at Busch Gardens, because when I did my theme park review of Busch Gardens Tampa back in September, I did not get to go on Falcons Fury that trip, but I finally did Falcons Fury this past month, and my God, that is the most terrifying ride I've ever been on.
Ooh, fun.
It's like, I think that might deserve its own review, but for those who don't know, it's a 335-foot tall drop tower. But the scary part is that when it takes you to the very top, they rotate your seat 90 degrees to where you're facing the ground like you are just facing the ground, dangling in your restraints before it just shoves you into the, like, it feels like you just jumped off a building. I honestly thought that I was going to die before the seats like flipped out. It was incredible. Would recommend, not for the faint of heart.
Wow.
Yeah, anyways, that was my review of Falcons Fury.
More reviews coming later, but
correct.
Let's hop into the news.
So let's start out with Super Nintendo World. So this land already opened at Universal Japan, and it, like, from the videos and pictures I've seen of it, it looks super, super cool. Like, I think this is going to be another land that blows up Universal, because, like, they really blew up a decade ago when they opened up Harry Potter World. And this one, I think, will really now, this is opening at Universal Hollywood next year, and I believe, I don't know if Universal confirmed it, but I'm pretty sure, like, with permits and stuff, it's basically confirmed that's going to be opening at Epic Universe whenever that opens up here in Orlando.
Dang.
Yeah, I know they have like some sort of Mario Kart racing ride. They have a Yoshi looking ride that's like almost like a Seuss train people mover-esque ride around the land. And I believe at least in Japan they're working on an expansion for like a Donkey Kong coaster. Um I don't know what it's going to look like at Universal Hollywood, but this I am so excited to have this in the States.
I'm excited to have it too, and I like that Universal they're taking another step forward with giving Disney a run for their money and making these
Yeah.
big lands. They're not just making a ride, they're making a land, you know.
Hmm.
And that's where it's at right now. Theme parks are making whole immersive lands and obviously Super Mario being as popular as it has been for so long, that's going to be really cool.
Absolutely. And it's also not even just the lands, it's just the experiences that they've been creating. Like I do feel like within the last couple of years especially, like the new stuff that Universal has released has been like just on a different level because like they, opened up Hagrid's, which oh my God, Hagrid's is amazing. And then they opened up Velocicoaster, which we've talked about many times on the show, and which I'll actually mention later in my Iron Gwazi review. And then this new Super Nintendo world because Harry Potter world, and then I think Disney was like, "Ooh, we got to do Pandora and Toy Story and Star Wars." Which Pandora is definitely an awesome land. I don't know how Toy Story Land is cute and all, whatever. Star Wars, I think they're like is very cool, but there's also still kind of mixed reviews on it in a way.
Yeah, I get it. I'm right there with you. I kind of agree with everything you said. Pandora done really well.
Hmm.
Cute is the perfect word for Toy Story Land.
Yeah,
It's definitely not anything too special, but it's fun.
yeah,
And then Star Wars Land, for being as big as it is, almost feels like it doesn't have enough in it.
yeah.
Um, sure, Rise of the Resistance is amazing and it's an
Hmm.
awesome ride, but like
Hmm.
you go there and there's two rides, one restaurant, and then
Pay
isn't that really
200
it?
and something dollars for a lightsaber
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
and over
exactly.
100 for a droid.
So,
Um,
mm,
and for me, it's like I think when it comes to theme park lands, it's not about the IP you use; it's really about the experience you create. Like I can really speak for this because I do not care about Harry Potter, Avatar, or Star Wars as IPs, but like the theme park lands for Harry Potter and Pandora, I absolutely love.
mm,
Star Wars, like I love Mandalorian, but the land itself, I don't like. And granted, I also have a little bit of beef because I'm a very big fan of old Hollywood studios, so I do have a little bit of bias there. Like it would be very hard to impress me with no matter what they put.
yeah,
But I mean, heck, I mean, Universal used to have Dueling Dragons before Hagrid's, and Hagrid's really lived up.
yeah, true.
Granted, I actually never did Dueling Dragons, but like, two, there's not like an open hatred about Hagrid's replacing Dueling Dragons like there is like Mickey and Minnie's replacing Great Movie Ride,
Yeah, yeah.
that type of thing.
Even part of Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge replacing the backlot tour.
Yeah, and stunt lights motor action.
I mean,
Like
those
there
were
was
two
a
classics.
Yeah, like there was a Reddit thread that I saw recently that was like, would you rather go to Disney 10 years ago in 2012 or Disney 2022? And I really did try to look objectively. I feel like there's like a lot of people just complaining about the magic being gone and that type of thing. But looking at it objectively, I was trying to look at like what Disney has actually done in the last 10 years that I've really liked. And I think Animal Kingdom had the biggest glow up in the last 10 years. And then there's also been just a lot of really great food options. Like I feel like the food is probably the biggest thing that I've liked within Disney in the last 10 years. And
Hmm.
that's probably the one thing that every other theme park needs to step up on. Like I can go to Disney for an entire day, not ride any rides, eat a bunch of food, have an amazing time.
Yeah,
But in terms of the rides, the only one that they've added that has really like touched me is Flight of Passage,
yeah,
which is absolutely incredible. And then just like that whole land is really good. But then like old Hollywood Studios, great movie ride, backlog tour, stunt lights, motor action, and early 2012 had the old test track theme, which big stand for the old test track. But
yeah,
anyways, we went a little bit off subject here. Super Nintendo, I think it's really gonna blow off at Epic Universe. I think the news article that came out, confirmed it for Universal Hollywood next year. But since I'm here in Florida, I'm waiting for it to come here. Hollywood, congratulations for getting it first, you jerks. I think there was a rumor that Super Nintendo World was going to replace the Kid Zone at Universal, at the Universal Orlando Park. But then I think when they confirmed Epic Universe, I think they were gonna. I guess they decided to move to Epic Universe instead.
Yeah, makes sense. But super excited to see it.
Yeah. Which, speaking of rumors, we're gonna go over to Tampa. Kumba, the classic B&M looper that really put that company on the map. There was rumors circulating recently that this roller coaster was going to potentially shut down later this year. There was some sort of source that claimed that he heard that Kumba was going to shut down at some point soon. He was saying, ride Kumba while you can. But then Busch Gardens Tampa, like, kind of really pushed back on these rumors, saying we can't ride Kumba with you in 2023 and that type of thing. There was a lot of speculation online about this in particular because you had rides like we mentioned the Dueling Dragons before, like those were reaching the end of their shelf life. Those were built a few years after Kumba, but because they're at Universal, they were operating at a much higher capacity. And then Incredible Hulk, they had to completely retract that ride a few years ago. So I think there were some basis to it, but there was a lot of YouTubers and just a lot of threads about people talking about Kumba possibly going away. And you haven't been to Busch Gardens Tampa, have you?
No,
Okay. Have you been to SeaWorld?
no.
Okay, darn. Because I was gonna say this ride is like kind of at that level of Incredible Hulk and Kraken, where it's like kind of that like old school B&M looper, where it's like kind of really intense.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, when I first heard the rumor, I was like, I would rather wait till I hear what Busch Gardens has to say. I like it's sort of an iconic coaster for coaster enthusiasts, but I feel like it's not the type of coaster that like people are going to the park for. You know, it's not Hagrid's, it's not Velocicoaster, it's not Flight of Passage, it's not the ride that people are going to the park for. Um, and a part of me could have seen it going away, but I also just am annoyed that there's been a lot of just rumors in the coaster community that just blow up at it, like things that just don't even get confirmed that people blow up about. Like for example, I think on one of our previous podcasts we talked about a record-breaking Gerstlauer coaster opening, and the record was the coaster being built at the highest elevation. But for months, people were talking about, ooh, Cedar Fair is going to get the highest inversions in the world. We're finally going to beat the Smiler over in the UK. And there's just been a bunch of rumors like that just sort of like just get blown up with like speculation. Or how Six Flags Fiesta Texas, a lot of people thought for months that they were going to get the first SNS Access coaster. That ended up being Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger, the B&M dive coaster with the steepest drop of any dive coaster, that type of thing. So basically, fake news and rumors just get blown up too much, and I don't like it. That is all.
Those darn theme park enthusiasts are the worst.
They really are the worst. They are the worst people. I confirm I am the worst person.
You are.
Yeah. I was
All right.
gonna tie this into your, because you are gonna do a theme park TRISTory about Knott's Berry Farm. There was another rumor circulating recently about Knott's Berry Farm potentially getting a Giga Coaster. There were supposed plans that were leaked online that a bunch of YouTubers and people were analyzing, but like Knott's Berry Farm hasn't mentioned anything about it. Like they still need to get approval from the city and everything. Like this might not even be a thing. Why are we like, until the park says stuff, don't be reporting it as actual news?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the layout and plans look amazing, but it's like, anyways, that was a random little tangent I went off of.
That's all right. That's all right. But yeah, those rumors in our community, man, they run wild. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong.
Correct.
But let's talk about something that's confirmed over in the Disney World.
In the Disney World,
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about the Polynesian.
that's right.
All right, so very recently, Disney revealed plans of a brand new DVC tower for the Polynesian. And Tristan, what are your thoughts about this new tower? Because is it going over where that oh my God, Spirit of
Yeah,
Aloha?
it is. That from what I can tell, that is closing. Spirit of Aloha will be closing to make way for that tower. I'm personally not too upset by that. One, I've never seen Spirit of Aloha.
Mm-hmm,
I've heard it's great. It's like a cult classic type of thing.
mm-hmm,
So it's a bummer for all those folks that have been staying at the Poly since 71, and that's something that they do every time they're here. But you got to think of all the stuff that comes with the tower opening.
yeah.
you might be getting, I doubt it, but you might be getting a new pool. It's possible. And then in the tower itself, you never know if you're going to get a restaurant, some lounges, a bar, maybe another type of entertainment will be included in that.
It's
So
like
a
I
new
feel like
tower.
there's got to be a good lounge at least in that
Yeah.
tower. I mean, like, they already have Trader Sam's and Ohana, but I mean, if they're opening up a new tower, there's got to be a good lounge with that.
Yeah. You gotta. So, it's cool. I don't know what it's going to really do to, in terms of how Seven Seas Lagoon looks.
Hmm.
Seven Seas Lagoons, it's pretty, it's nice or whatever, but I don't really think putting a new tower in is going to make it look any uglier. I think
Yeah.
it might make it look better.
There has been some concerns about that, and I sort of felt it because they released artwork of it, and I sort of agreed with it. I feel like the architecture of the building looks very reminiscent of like every modern apartment complex.
Yeah.
And then the top of the building for me also looked exactly like the Swan Reserve.
Okay.
Like like it looked like Swan Reserve mixed with every apartment building that's been built in the last 10 years, but then it's like kind of Polynesian themed. It's like I think we'll have to see when it's actually built, like the architecture of the building, like the artwork really didn't look like Disney Deluxe Resort to me. Like it looked nice, but not that nice. Um, Hopefully, I'm proven wrong, and hopefully, all the other people that have been complaining about it are wrong too. But
Yeah, I don't know. See, what the interesting thing with this is if it's going to make the rest of the Polynesian seem weird, if it's not going to work
yeah,
right, because the Polynesian, being as old as it is, still works. Like, you know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
don't go in and you're like, this is old. It still works. It's
exactly.
perfectly themed. But take the contemporary. It's just as old as the Poly, but in my
Hmm.
mind, the contemporary is very outdated. Um, sure,
Mm,
there's like incredible stuff in it now or whatever, but like
yeah,
it's pretty bland.
even with like the recent re-theme, it's still like yeah,
So that's kind of my concern is like, is putting this new modern building right next to an old classic building going to work, with
yeah,
the vibe that you get, like the relaxing vibe that you get when you're laying out there. So I don't know.
yeah. I'm not sure
Hmm.
about that. It's like creative decisions like that might be kind of related to possibly the beef between Chapek and Iger that's been going on.
Ooh, good
It's like
segue.
literally right before we were just about to record this, and just a headline popped up for me from CNBC. Extremely awkward. Bob Chapek and Bob Iger had a falling out. There's rarely talk, and the rift looms over Disney's future. And this was an incredibly long article about kind of disagreements, and I think about just kind of in the direction that the company is going in. I know it mentioned stuff about how at the beginning of COVID, like Bob Iger wanted to step in to kind of help out, and that Chapek may have been rubbed the wrong way by that because he's like, I don't need this extra help. I feel like I'm being kind of handheld. It kind of and it brought up a lot of old stuff too. Like there was the whole like Black Widow Scarlett Johansson controversy. Like Iger apparently was like that would never have happened under me because like I think some of that blame happened because of Chapek. And then of course there was the whole controversy with the "Don't Say Gay" bill and comments that Chapek made about that, which rubbed a bunch of people in the Walt Disney Company a wrong way. Because Chapek, when something along the lines of me speaking out against the bill isn't going to change policy, we celebrate diversity through the stories we tell, like in Kanto and Black Panther. That's essentially what he said.
Wow.
I'm talking mad smack about him right now. Um, and I think there has been a certain vibe for people working at Disney since Chapek has taken over. Granted, COVID has sort of ruined a bunch of stuff, but yeah,
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen it looks like the culture may have changed a little bit under his leadership. And kind of touching back on the difference between Iger and Chapek, and you actually mentioned this before we started recording, but a lot of what Chapek was about was like pushing all the streaming stuff that we've got right
yeah,
now, putting a lot of time, effort, and money into streaming, which is good. I think that's
mm-hmm,
definitely where most companies are going, or
mm-hmm,
entertainment is going. However, Iger was a lot more about parks. He and Michael Eisner was even more so about parks, but Iger still put a lot of time and effort
Yeah.
into the parks and stuff. It doesn't seem like Chapek is really investing in the parks too much. I mean, look at how they just announced that Story Living by Disney thing where they're going to be building neighborhoods
Yeah.
around the country.
That's
Like,
so
that's weird.
yeah, and like yeah, because like the parks are like kind of Disney's biggest money makers, and where like memories are really truly made. Like I feel like a lot of Disney like corporate language recently has really like always mentioned the stories that you love type of thing, and like they're really kind of honing in on that with the streaming services. I feel like we've been like very negative Disney. I feel like I'm gonna say one positive thing or one thing that Chapek supposedly said that I'm going to agree with. There was a headline I saw sometime within the last few months that mentioned how Chapek wanted to add more mature content to Disney Plus, and I'm like, that's a pretty good change.
Yeah.
I'll throw them that bone. I mean, they added all of the Netflix Marvel shows on the Disney Plus, so like being able to embrace more mature content like with like some Disney themes, I think will be that's a good thing. But
Getting Disney Plus to adults is a big
yeah,
thing, to
yeah,
people who don't have kids,
yeah,
and that's what they're
yes,
doing. So,
correct.
um,
And I mean, there's the Disney adult trend, childless millennial, whatever. Um, like adults are the ones spending money on Disney, and then granted, you have the families with children going to the parks that Chapek isn't investing in very well. But
yeah.
anyways, because
Anyways,
because we work for the theme park industry in Florida, so we know people that work at Disney who may have sensed the cultural shift.
yeah.
I really kind of wish there was a better way for me to analyze it because it's like I feel like like I like heard people before COVID and before Chapek even say like I feel like Disney is becoming more business minded than creative minded. Um, it's like has it always just gone that way? Has it how much worse has it actually been?
It seems like it is going that way. And I
Yeah.
touched on Michael Eisner briefly, and then we'll go to our next thing here. But like
Mm.
Michael Eisner was super into the parks and Imagineering.
Yeah.
Read his book. If anyone listening, read his book called Work in Progress. It really goes into how creatively involved he was. And he was very creatively involved in
Hmm.
film, television, theme parks, everything. And then Iger was like a mix of both, in my opinion,
Hmm.
kind of business stuff and still park entertainment creative, and Chapek so far.
Yeah.
But
Because Iger did there was a lot of great things that happened at the parks under Iger.
mhm. I mean, it like I said, it's the best of both worlds here because
Yeah.
Iger acquired Marvel and Lucasfilm,
Hmm.
but then
And Pixar.
and Pixar, and then he put all that in the parks though, so you can go into the parks and live in Star Wars
Yeah.
and live in Marvel if you're in California.
Yeah.
Um, but
R.I.P.
yeah,
Orlando.
so
Thanks
moving on next
Universal
here.
circa into the 90s.
Exactly, yeah. Hey, you have a review here
Yes.
of the big boy.
Before we get to that review though, we did have one more news story,
Mm.
and that is about Top Thrill Dragster over at Cedar Point. Um, Back in August, there was a very bad incident where while Top Thrill Dragster was finishing its brake run, a giant L-shaped bracket flew off and hit a woman in the head, severely injuring her, putting her in the ER. And after that, the ride had shut down. And after a months-long investigation that finally completed last month, Cedar Point made the decision to shut down Top Thrill Dragster for the 2022 season. And in case you aren't familiar with this ride, it was the tallest and fastest ride when it opened up in the year 2000, 2001, 2002, something like that. It has a 420-foot tall top hat and a 120-mile-per-hour launch. It is an icon of the park, and it was one that I had to miss out on my trip. It was down both the days that I was there, and then a few days later, this incident happened. Um, Tristan, you said you've been to Cedar Point. I forget.
I did go to Cedar Point, and I was way too much of a chicken to go on Top Thrill. I would go on it now, but
Yeah,
this
if it
was
ever
years
opens.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
if it ever reopens. So
yeah,
I definitely won't be going this year anyway because I'm out of money.
yeah.
But I'd love to ride it.
There was 100-page long report on like the entire incident and about all the maintenance stuff that's up with Top Thrill Dragster. So I think this year they might. It's one of those things where it would you know, for safety reasons and hoping this never happens again, I would totally understand if they had to shut it down. And I think even like the CEO that opened Top Thrill Dragster said opening that ride was the worst decision that I've ever made, something along the lines of that. And that's only because, like, as you can tell with my trip, that ride is plagued with maintenance issues. Like, I think I read a statistic, like somebody made a blunt comment that like it's really only open like a third of the time because of like its downtimes. And sorry, my cat is playing with my blind. I'm gonna let my cat play with my blinds. Like, she is just in my blinds right now. Anyways, she looks so dumb right now. Oh god, I'm so distracted. Anyway, and I think I made that comment somewhere, and somebody was actually went really in depth into that, and they were able to find out, yeah, Top Thrill Dragster literally is open like maybe half the time or less than half the time. So I would imagine if they had to close it permanently, they would really at least try to replace it with something suitable, and I hope that would happen. I'm kind of sad if I'm never going to be able to ride that kind of ride. Hopefully I can maybe get to King Ka in New Jersey, which is a little bit more reliable from what I've heard. It's like I've heard some people like Top Thrill better because it only has a lap bar, not the shoulder restraints. But anyways, very sad news on the Top Thrill Dragster Cedar Point front. From what I've heard about the person who got injured, I mean, there's no official reports, but based on the injuries and plenty of third-hand reports, it might not be very good. So that might also be another reason for Top Thrill Dragster potentially. I don't know if or how it'll be able to reopen, but hopefully something good for the coaster community will happen in that regard.
Yeah. Well, all
But
right.
something good that did happen for the coaster community, March 11th, Iron Gwazi finally opened. Ah, I've been looking forward to this review.
It's been in talks for so long. I remember I was watching Tim Tracker videos years ago, and he was talking about Iron Gwazi. This is years
Yeah,
ago, and he's talking
yeah.
about it. So it's been a while.
It's like when did like Busch Gardens had to officially announce it? I want to say in 2019,
Yeah.
and in March 2020, I think they were testing some of the trains right before the COVID shutdown. And then, the parks were closed for 4 months, but then the ride didn't open up for 2 more years. Um, yeah. So yeah, Iron Gwazi, an RMC conversion of the original Gwazi, a rough dueling wooden coaster originally, but now it's just one track, and it is the tallest and steepest hybrid in the world. 206 feet tall, a 91-degree drop, and just full of airtime, two really great inversions. There's just a lot of great airtime elements on this coaster. Just the drop itself. This ride is nonstop from start to finish. As soon as you hit that first drop is incredible, and then you're at that intensity the entire ride. It carries through every element. So right after that drop, there's an incredible airtime hill with just sustained ejector airtime from like as it carries you over. Then it goes into probably one of the elements that people have noticed the most that I've been looking forward to, the death roll, just like a downhill barrel roll, and it just yeets you right through that. And then a lot of people who have reviewed this coaster have said one of the best elements on this ride is its wave turn. Like there is like incredible sustained ejector airtime and just this 90-degree wave turn, which does not make any sense. I don't know any other ride with that. And it's just element for element. This ride is just so good. And I think two of the biggest questions with this ride is it better than Velocicoaster, which is, until Iron Gwazi opened, the best roller coaster in Florida was Velocicoaster, and then Steel Vengeance, which was previously the tallest and steepest hybrid when that opened, which I'm going to start with Velocicoaster first. Honestly, with both either debate, it really depends on who you ask. I feel like it's really been down the middle. Velocicoaster really is the total package with theming, operations, and reliability. And it kind of builds as you go that ride. But you kind of enter the queue, you're surrounded by the second half of the ride. That's incredible. The queue is very well themed. It has that really great locker system. for Iron Gwazi, you will have to pay for a locker for larger items. But something that actually surprised me, their trains actually had a small zippered pouch under your legs that you can like put your phone or sunglasses in, which I really liked that. So if you don't go to parks with like a bag, you could go on Iron Gwazi without renting a locker probably. Um, um, and then, like I said, yeah, Velocicoaster kind of starts off somewhat tamer, but it has a really fun first half through all the theming and rock work. And then that second half is like very intense. Like that stall is incredible, and then that Mosasaurus roll over the water at the very end might be the best inversion on a roller coaster. Um, I definitely can see why people would say Velocicoaster is better. For people that go with Iron Gwazi, it's purely from a coaster standpoint, how it's literally nonstop from start to finish. Like I think the ride time is a little bit shorter. I think the ride length might be a few hundred feet shorter as well. But it's just nonstop from start to finish. My first reaction was Iron Gwazi was better, but there's also people but like one of my friends said that they liked Velocicoaster better. There's also a YouTube channel I watched, Coaster Studios. They had a video, Velocicoaster Iron Gwazi, and every person they talked to, it was literally split down the middle. And I think I like the opinion of one person they asked. They liked Iron Gwazi better, but they would rather wait for Velocicoaster, which I think makes a lot of sense. That Iron Gwazi, when the ops are running well, the line does move pretty well. But both days that I went, it experienced downtimes. The first day that I went, I literally waited almost an hour before we had to leave because of maintenance issues. And then we came back later in the day, waited almost an hour, and a part of that had maintenance issues before finally getting one ride in before the park closed. I got to go another week or two later, got to get 3 or 4 rides on it, and then there was maintenance issues, so we couldn't ride it anymore after that. So in my experience, Velocicoaster has been more reliable, but Iron Gwazi has been an incredible ride. Compared to Steel Vengeance, however, so Steel Vengeance used to be the tallest and steepest RMC hybrid before Iron Gwazi, and Iron Gwazi only beat that record by literally 1 foot and 1 degree. Like Steel Vengeance is 205 feet with a 90-degree drop, and you honestly do feel that slight difference in the drop. And I think between Iron Gwazi and Steel Vengeance, this is actually another one that I've seen kind of down the middle, where some people like Steel Vengeance better because it's a much longer ride. Like there's over a mile of track and like 30 seconds of air, almost half a minute of airtime, where Iron Gwazi, it's between 4,000 and 4,500 feet of track. But some people say the elements and the way they're put together are done a lot better. Like it's kind of like some people say it's quality versus quantity. And my first reaction was liking Steel Vengeance a little better, but I really can't see it either way. But as of right now, my top 4, we talked about our top 10 coasters last week. My first gut reaction was Iron Gwazi is my number 3. So it's like Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, Iron Gwazi, Velocicoaster. But honestly, they're all very interchangeable. Incredible coaster. If you can make your way out to Busch Gardens Tampa, you got to go on Iron Gwazi.
Yes.
Yes. That's my favorite part of this podcast, me rambling on for way too long and Tristan going, yes.
Oh, dude, right now while you were talking about all that, I
You
did all my
zoned out
taxes.
You did your taxes.
I did all my taxes. I'm getting a good return too.
You're getting a good return. When's taxes due? Aren't those?
I don't know.
Those are due in April.
April something.
I just did mine right away because I don't mess around with that.
Yeah, good idea.
I gotta get my tax return to fund my theme park trips.
That's true, 100%. You better not pay in.
Correct. Yeah. No. What idiot actually does that?
I don't know.
Is there an actual benefit to do it? There isn't. No.
No.
Take your money.
Take your money. All right.
Yeah. And ride Iron Gwazi.
Iron Gwazi, baby. We got a little bit of TRISTory here. And like we already said, a lot of this relates to what we've talked about here. So we're doing Knott's Berry Farm. History of Knott's Berry Farm goes way, way back. So we'll start at the beginning. It originally opened as just a simple farm selling berry-related products in the 1920s and even helped pioneer what we now call boysenberries, believe it or not.
They invented boysenberries?
Well, they helped. I think his name was Walter. Walter Knott
Elias Disney.
Walter Elias Disney Knott Berry Farm traveled to Anaheim, believe it or not, to this fellow named Rudolph Boysen's farm. And what he was doing there was he was crossbreeding blackberries, raspberries, and loganberries. And they named them boysenberries after the guy who did this, Rudolph Boysen. So a little fun fact there for you. That was in 1932. So they brought back that into Knott's Berry Farm. The farm soon opened with a restaurant that became famous for fried chicken and made the farm a popular stop for people traveling through Southern California. Walter Knott opened a replica ghost town in the farm, which many believe marked the beginning of what we now know as a theme park. There was nothing like that. There was no like, let's walk through a fictitious land type of thing before that time. So it kind of did start the idea of a theme park. The farm operated in the summer as a summer-long county fair, which also resembled what we would now know as the amusement park. The first ride, the Timber Mountain Log Ride, opened in 1969. Now, although Knott's Berry Farm is credited as being the first theme park, it didn't open its first ride until 14 years after Disneyland opened. And Disneyland opened with over 30 rides. So kind of an interesting thing there. It was kind of behind in that regard.
Dang.
Still historic, though. Knott's Berry Farm expanded with many more rides in the 70s with bumper cars, a steeplechase roller coaster, and a guided rail car ride. The steeplechase opened in 76 and it was built by Aero Development, and it was intertwined with the car ride for added thrills. So like the tracks of both of them kind of intertwined each other. Fun fact, if you play Roller Coaster Tycoon, you want to be able to make your tracks intertwine with other rides because it makes your thrill level and your excitement level go up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know it.
Walter Knott died in 1981, and the park faced a lot of competition amongst the other California theme parks. So they opened a few new rides, including the new River Rapids ride in 1988. They added a couple more coasters in the 90s, including the Boomerang and the Jaguar. Cedar Fair bought the park in the late 90s after an opportunity to sell to Disney, who was speculated to want to turn the park into Disney's America, a failed park idea originally to be placed near Washington, D.C., but Knott's refused out of fear that Disney would close the original attraction. So that's all speculation on the Wikipedia page. However, I would believe that was true because going back to Michael Eisner's book, he talks a lot about Disney's America. And they really wanted to build that. Because
like I know they wanted to build Disney's America. It would really shock me if Disney bought an already established park to make a Disney park, though, because I feel like Disney parks have to be ground up in a way.
Well, I mean, we know that now to be true, but back then, who knows what they were thinking?
Maybe. I mean, it could have been an idea. Yeah, anyway, yeah.
But
that's a fun thought.
Yeah, it is. What would have happened? Since the acquisition, Knott's has added many new rides and much bigger roller coasters like Silver Bullet and Hang Time. Knott's Berry Farm now has only 10 roller coasters, including the Accelerator, which launches 82 miles an hour in 2.3 seconds, and the Boomerang, which packs 6 loops in 1 minute, and then you ride them all again backwards.
And I think the Accelerator might have been the precursor to Top Thrill Dragster and King Ka.
Oh, I did not know that.
I think, yeah.
So a little bit of Knott's Berry Farm there. I did know the little bit about being the first theme park, quote unquote, because of that ghost town thing. But who really knows what would have happened if they didn't do that? You know, would Walt Disney have heard about that and said, "Hey, let's make our own little thing here. Let's expand that and make Disneyland." Who knows what would have happened? But yeah, Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, Knott's Berry Farm. I actually went to Knott's Berry Farm once when I was like 9 years old. I unfortunately don't have a very great memory of it. Like, I remember seeing Accelerator and like thinking it looked cool, but this was also before I unlocked my love for roller coasters. Like, I'm the only person in my family that likes them, and I didn't really break my fear of them until actually break my fear until a little bit later because everyone in my family was so scared of them, so it kind of scared me until I finally was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And unfortunately, that didn't happen until after our Knott's Berry Farm trip. One thing that I remember from that trip, there is a now defunct boat ride that had it was literally just a boat ride with like an 80-degree drop, which is like for a boat ride very steep, and it was fairly tall. And I remember like my parents will like occasionally bring it up, but if I ever see it talked about online, people are like, oh yeah, that ride had so many problems, it was gonna close eventually. Like, oh, I had fun on it.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
it was me. I remember my brother had what was that old phone company that had "raising the bar" as their slogan?
Was it?
Singular something.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I don't know. Nextel?
Ne- no, we
I
did
have
have
no
Nextel
idea.
phones in my family. We were a Nextel family. I just remember my brother had a flip phone of that dumb company in his pocket, and that ride got you soaked. And he's like, "Oh man, my phone is very wet," and we were all laughing on the ride at the bottom of the drop.
That's
But
hilarious.
but anyways, yeah, that for whatever reason, that's my only memory of Knott's Berry Farm when I was 9 years old, back in like
Yeah.
2003 or four or something.
Wow. Way back in the day. Um,
Back in the day, tiny Tommy.
well,
What I would
very
do to go to
nice.
Knott's Berry Farm today.
Let's book a trip, Tommy. Let's go.
Let's book a trip. Like I'm gonna need at least a week in California because I gotta do Knott's Berry Farm. I gotta do the Disneyland parks,
Yep.
and then Six Flags Magic Mountain X2 is like hardcore on my butt. Like that's one of the highest roller coasters on my bucket list, I think.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we got to move on now to
Yeah.
Creatures of the
To
Parks. We haven't done this one in a little
wait,
bit.
yeah, Creatures of the Park.
Creatures of the Parks.
Do do
Um,
do.
we've been doing lots of Karens lately, so I pulled out some creatures here. First,
Some
this is more just
spooky creatures.
a general comment, but people who record fireworks, like I'm talking about the whole show, phone up
Mm-hmm.
like this, doing the whole thing, and then even worse, live streamers.
Oh my, yeah.
I there's been plenty of times where I've
Okay.
been watching a parade or a fireworks show and someone's live streaming on Facebook and it says 0 watchers, 0
Oh my.
people watching on their
Okay.
screen. I'm like, what's the point?
You know, I got to rant about my dad real quick. I don't think he listens to this podcast, but if he does, when him and my mom visited me back in October, I wanted to show him Harmonious, and my dad was watching Harmonious through his phone, and I really wanted to yell at him. I can't do that because I can't really say that to my dad because he's my dad, but I just kept thinking, man, put your phone down and watch this incredible fireworks show. You kids and your
Interesting.
phones these days.
It's just like, come on, if you really wanted to watch a video of
Yeah,
it so bad, just go on YouTube later and look up any video.
yeah.
You're
It's
not going to
like
watch your own video that much, I promise you.
correct. It's like something that I will do, and like I'll like try to like frame my phone real quick and just get like a quick shot for my Snapchat memory. That way in a year it'll pop up on my Snapchat memories and then I'll cry of nostalgia. But like I'm never gonna like watch most of the show through my phone. Like I want to experience everything as much as I can. I feel like an old person saying something like that, but like
Oh man, I'm right there with you.
yeah.
Yeah. And then here's another one, and this is a specific story that I witnessed. So it involves a Scottish man, a
Oh boy.
Scottish drunk man. If you want to
Scottish
hear more
drunk.
about Scottish people, check out our most recent episode of Two Useless Organisms,
Oh boy.
our not safe for work comedy podcast.
Yeah.
But okay, so I was
What if
standing in line for a ride, and this drunk Scottish man and I believe his wife and little girl come down the line, and they're about to get on the ride, and the dad starts screaming at the cast member that his daughter hit her head somewhere. It's like, oh, she hit her head. Well, I don't know the accent, but she hit her head really bad. And then he asked if he could like shine some sort of a light on her head so he could see if she was okay. So this cast member did, and then the guy started yelling at the cast member for blinding his daughter, and then just started screaming at the cast member, like just doing this, doing that, just trying to cause like a scene, to the point where like the wife was embarrassed. She was just trying to get on the ride, and the guy just like decided to hold the whole ride up and all that crap. Man, I tell you, these
yeah,
people,
those
man,
poor cast members.
they get some stuff, I can
It's
tell
like
you.
I'm so glad Disney took away their mask rule last month or whatever, just
Yeah.
for the cast members, like because
And
they had that rule for a long time,
long time.
and from people I know that work there, it's like 90% of their situations at least were because of that.
Yeah, that's gotta be tough.
Yeah.
All right.
And then they got to deal with stuff like that all the time. But anyway.
Not as bad as dealing with you, Tommy. Talk us out of this bad boy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening to this action-packed episode of Please Remain Seated. It has been like almost 2 months since we recorded, so we had a lot that we had to cover this time. Be sure to check us out on our next episode. Be sure to rate us 5 stars on Apple App Podcasts. And tell all your friends if you like theme parks, listen to our dumb faces talk about them. It's a good time.
It's a good time.
Did that come back to Magic Kingdom? Because
Bye.
speaking of Disney news, they had Festival of Fantasy return.